Okay, so there'll probably be people still streaming in. We're up to 107 people at the moment, and all the way from Malahide. Hello, Therese. Um, just a couple of things about Zoom this week. So you'll notice that it's saying on the video live on YouTube. So what I'm doing is I'm using YouTube as a backup recording. So it's not actually going out live to everyone. That's just a private recording that I'll be sending to you all later today. I find the recording it on YouTube is a bit more reliable than Zoom actually. So if you're wondering why you probably see on my picture that there's a live on YouTube thing there. I'm also recording it on Zoom as well, just to make sure, because quite a few people said they couldn't make the course, but they really enjoyed watching the video. So even though not everyone is here, lots of people are watching the video as well and staying up the course that way. But you guys are getting it live. Strawberry beds in Dublin. That's great, Mark. Hey, Fergus. Okay, so you're very welcome to the course, to week 2 of the course. Just to give a sense of what we're going to be doing this morning, let me just bring up my PowerPoint. So today what we're going to do is we're going to do some introductions again to this week and what we'll be doing like we're doing now. And we'll be doing a little recap of last week. So I know not all of you will have been here last week, although some of you hopefully got to see the video as well. So we'll be doing a recap of last week, just very briefly, and I'll talk a bit about the home practice. I also want to hear a bit from you guys about how you got on with the home practice. So I'll come back to that in a few minutes. We'll do another full period of another full practice of the mindfulness of breathing meditation. That'll take about 20, 25 minutes or so. And then we'll have a little, just a little interlude. And then the second half of the morning, we'll be looking more deeply at mindfulness. So we'll be looking at what in Buddhism is sometimes called the foundations of mindfulness, or maybe a better word is the applications of mindfulness. So the 4 applications or foundations of mindfulness. We'll do another short meditation sit for about 10 minutes or so, just to highlight and draw out what put that into practice, really, you could say. And then at the end, I'll talk a bit again about home practice, and we'll answer some questions. I can also answer some questions about home practice as well before we do the mindfulness of breathing practice. So just to give a little recap on what we did last week. So leaving aside the fact that there was a bit of a tech problem, what we did was we introduced meditation. We thought, yeah, so we talked about posture last week, and then we did the mindfulness of breathing practice. We talked a bit about what mindfulness is, and really mindfulness boils down to being simply aware of what's going on around you and being aware of what's going on internally. So, and we did the mindfulness breathing practices, which is where we're focusing on the breath in the body, and there's different stages of that. So I'll remind you of that practice as well now. So let me just go back to the PowerPoint presentation. So, whoop, why didn't that change? My apologies, hang on a second. Oh yeah, there we go. Okay, so in the mindfulness of breathing, we're aware of the breath at different points. So in the first stage, we're aware of the breath and we added a count after the out breath. In the second stage, we're aware of the breath with a count before the in breath. In the third stage, we're mindful of the breath. And in the fourth stage, we're mindful, as we breathe in and out, of the sensations at the point where we first feel the breath enter the body. So hopefully, I'll lead us through that practice in a few minutes. So hopefully you got to try that during the week and you got to get on okay with it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to use one of the Zoom features. I'm going to send out a poll to you all, and it should only take about 2 or 3 minutes. It's a multiple choice poll. You don't have to type anything in except type in. So I just want to get a sense of how often people have meditated. It is anonymous, so I'm not going to be collecting names and following up with you about why you didn't do it every day or anything like that. But I'd be curious to see how people got on. So it'll only take 2 minutes. So you should have that coming up on your screen any second now. Kevin, will you confirm when you get it? Oh, you're not on it. Okay, Kevin is on. Oh, it's gone again. Okay, I think it's up on, okay, great. Apologies again for unstable internet. I'm not sure why that's happening. It's never happened before. Sorry, Jean-Terre. That's great. So almost everyone has voted. So if you haven't, keep doing it. So it looks like, let's see, can I share this polling now? Share results, yeah. So most of you did it every day. So that's really good. So pat on the back. Some people weren't here last week, and most people did it every day or 5 days. Good few 3 days. I think that's all really good. So well done. And the most popular time was early morning, which is the one I would expect, all right. Quite a few people doing it mid-morning, and quite a few people doing it in the evening. And then the main reason, and I think this is interesting, is that you forget to prioritize it. And I think that is very true. You do tend to forget to prioritize these things when you almost need a reminder in your phone every day to remind you. So don't hesitate to put a reminder in your phone to do this. Now, unfortunately, other is a huge amount, so 32%. So feel free to type in what other was, the other things that might have stopped you if you want into the chat box. Unfortunately, with the polling, you can't actually enter things, but as in you can't type in reasons. It's only multiple choice. But that's good to hear. I'm pleased by how many of you did it each day and almost every day. So well done, everyone. Okay. So, and by the way, as always, just type some questions into the chat box if you want to ask anything about how you get on during your practice. I mean, as I said last week, the main two challenges people have, I find, are making the time and getting comfortable when you're sitting. Really, what happens on the cushion isn't really. I think people can handle that in a way. It's less of a challenge than actually getting on the cushion. So the main challenge that you'll have is to make time to make sure you get on the cushion. And I remember Rathabandhu, again, the man, I quoted him last week as well, the guy who taught me to meditate. He told a story about how there was a meditation teacher who went into death row and was teaching meditation to people in death row. And sorry for those who the polling didn't work, by the way, sorry about that. But he went in to teach meditation in death row, and these were guys like in cells for 23.5 hours a day. They might got half an hour on the prison yard. And some of them really took to meditation, and some of them said to him, yeah, it's not for me. And he asked one guy, why isn't it for you? And the guy went, I just don't have the time, So, we prioritize what we do ourselves with our time. So just really prioritize what you're going to do if you want to keep doing meditation. You are the master of, you choose what you do with your time. I know we all have responsibilities and everything, but I do believe that we can carve out time each day for us to do that. Okay, yeah, so Roshin is saying that I found some days harder than others. Some days I couldn't stop drifting off. Yeah, it's a strange one, this. I mean, some days your meditation just goes really well, and other days it's just very, very drifty and hard to connect with. And I don't know, it's very hard to work out why, and I don't think it's that useful in some ways to spend too long wondering why, because it just seems to change so much, and it's dependent upon so many different conditions. So don't worry too much. The main thing is that you do it. And I find, even if it's a drifting meditation, at the end, if you spend a bit of time just seeing how it feels, how you feel after doing it, I guarantee you'll always feel a bit better after having meditated, even if the meditation itself didn't feel so good. Great. So yeah, that's good. That's good. Hard to do. Yeah. Okay, so weekends are more challenging. Yeah, it's funny that at weekends, because you think at weekends you have more time and more space to do things. But I think a large part of getting a meditation practice going is the structure of your day. And at the weekends, I find your structure isn't there, your usual structure of getting up for work or whatever it is that you're doing. And it can actually be a lot harder to get yourself motivated to meditate at the weekends. One person is saying that they relax too much and sleepy and lose the mindfulness of the moment while meditating. That's in a way a nice problem in some ways. Oh yeah, so sorry, let me just find Kevin and make him the co-host. Co-host, great. Okay, good. Yeah, I mean, you will relax, and if you keep falling asleep, maybe you need to look more at getting. This is really obvious, but look more at getting more sleep off the cushion, so to speak. And if you, it's really obvious. Or maybe what you could do is you could try and give a bit of space before you meditate, just to do nothing, to sit and look out a window or something. Because we're so busy, it's like we're eating all the time with our mind, and then when you go to stop, your mind, it's almost like your mind has the equivalent of a full stomach, and you're going to fall asleep. So if you don't give yourself space to process your day, have a bit of space, look out the window for a few minutes, do nothing for a few minutes before your meditation, and just let your mind calm down, you're much less likely then to fall asleep in the meditation. In some ways, if you give yourself 10 minutes of doing nothing before your meditation, you'd have a much better meditation as well. And the other thing you could do if you have the time is to do the body scan before the mindfulness breathing, one after another, and that'll help. No worries if you have to rush off at 11. I'll send you the video of this later on. I use the ball to sit on, very comfortable, yeah. And Joanne, it is hard to get comfortable sometimes. So, and everyone's body is different, so you have to find a way that works for your body. Just find a chair or a cushion or something like that to sit on if you can, but you'll keep adjusting. I mean, your posture is something that you constantly work on, really, because as you meditate more, your body will change as well. Your muscles start to open as well. So yeah, Zana used the body scan as preparation. Can you meditate lying down? I was saying this last week that if you have like a chronic pain condition or something like that, people very commonly lie down. The problem is lying down is that you'll tend to fall asleep very easily. Your body tells your mind that it's time to go to bed. So if you can do it without falling asleep in any way, and it's the only way you can be comfortable, then do it. But just be very wary of falling asleep. I've seen people kind of prop themselves at a bit of an angle, literally like that, you know, and that keeps them a bit more upright. If you're meditating with other people, you want to be careful as well that you're not snoring as you lie down. It's very easy to do, and I've been on retreats where we've had to shake someone to wake them up when they've been meditating lying down. Great. Okay, good. Other good comments coming in. Appreciation comments. Okay, good. Okay, so I think what we'll do now is we'll launch into the mindfulness of breathing practice. So why don't you make yourself comfortable, get what you need, and to sit upright and alert, and make yourself, I'll give you a couple of minutes just to make yourself comfortable, and I'll lead us through the practice. In a moment or two, I'll invite you to close your eyes. I'm just going to get my clock ready. Okay, so settling into your posture then when you're ready. When you're ready, and when you feel you've adjusted yourself enough, when you feel like you've made whatever adjustments you need to make, closing your eyes, maybe taking 3 deep breaths so you open across the front of the chest. And on the 3rd inhalation, as you breathe out, keeping the openness across the front of the chest. So your chest is open, so you can breathe easily in the practice. And you might find it difficult not to control or shape the breath as you become aware of the breath, but just doing your best and even just practicing letting go. Don't get too worried about it if you still are to some degree controlling it, just trying to let it be. So let's just tune into the body then and see how it feels. How does our physical body feel right now? Are we at ease? Can we feel our body? Can we feel the contact with the chair, with the cushions? Can we feel Any part of our feet or our legs in contact with the floor? Do we need to bring ourselves down out of our head a bit? Can we feel the breath in our belly? And how comfortable are we with sitting here? Is our experience pleasant? Is it painful? Is it somewhere in between? Are we at ease? Are we comfortable? Or are we uncomfortable? And just being open to whatever we find. Not trying to fix it in any particular way. Noticing if there's any emotions arising and passing away. If they're strong or painful, we can breathe into them, we can breathe with them. Is there any recurrent thoughts happening? Are you thinking about what might come later, or what happened earlier, or something else? Can you let it just be without getting involved in it? Now allowing an awareness of the breath to emerge within the body, within all this context we've become aware of already. The body breathing, the breath in the body. Giving it lots of space to emerge. You don't have to grab it. And now connecting with our intention to stay engaged with the practice. So our purpose for these next few minutes, these next 15 to 20 minutes, is to try and stay with the breath. And if you wander off, keep coming back to the breath again. Not giving yourself a hard time if you wander off. Just noticing it and coming back to the breath. So now in the first stage of the mindfulness of breathing, we are mindful of the breath. And to help us do that, we have a count after the out breath. So it's 1, breathe in, breathe out. 2, breathe in, breathe out. 3, breathe in, breathe out. And when you reach 10, starting again at 1, with the main focus being on the breath. The breath at its own natural pace. And if your mind wanders off, that's okay. Just noticing that, acknowledging that, and coming back to the practice again, back to the breath, and the count from 1. And now in the second stage of the mindfulness of breathing, we're mindful of the breath. And in this stage, we add a count before the in-breath. So it's 1, breathe in, breathe out. 2, breathe in, breathe out. 3, breathe in, breathe out. At the breath's own pace. And when you reach 10, you start again at 1. But the main focus is on the breath. And if you wandered off, that's perfectly okay. Just noticing that, acknowledging that. Coming back again down to the practice, back again to the breath, and the count from 1. And now in the third stage of the mindfulness of breathing, we drop the count completely. And now we're simply aware of each in-breath, simply aware of each out-breath. You can even be aware of the points where the in-breath turns to the out-breath, the out-breath turns to the in-breath. So simply being aware of the breath. And if we feel drawn off to other things, we can remember that we don't have to do anything else right now. We don't have to be anywhere else, be anyone, apart from just sitting here, simply with the breath. So enjoying the simplicity of simply sitting here. Nothing else to do for now, but follow the breath. Now in the fourth stage, we begin by noticing where we first feel the breath enter the body. So where can we first feel the breath? Maybe on the lips or on the nostrils, in the nose, in the throat, in the mouth. And now being aware of the sensations at that point, as we breathe in and as we breathe out, as best we can. And once more, if you wander off, don't worry, just noticing that, coming back again to the practice. Okay, and now letting go of the breath, staying in posture with your eyes closed without moving. Just letting go of the breath, letting go of the practice. We're just going to let the mind relax, let the mind do whatever it wants to do. We're going to do a period of just sitting for a couple of minutes, just to absorb all the effort we've made in the practice. So you can't really do this wrong. You just let go of the practice and you just sit. Let the mind go wherever it wants to go. Just dwell in a very open, spacious mind. And now starting to broaden out our attention once more, taking in the sounds around us, a sense of the room that we're in, the contact again with the chair and the floor and so on. Reintroducing movement, wiggling fingers and toes, making whatever stretches or adjustments you want to make. And in your own time, coming out of the posture, opening your eyes and returning to a more regular seated position. Okay, so I hope you got on okay with that. Again, feel free to leave comments. Why is all the breathing in my abdomen and not in my chest? I think you just let the breath be whatever way it wants to be, and if it wants to be down there, then that's where it wants to be. I wouldn't worry too much about where it is, but just let it be the way it is. Yeah, someone else is talking about difficult emotions coming up when you meditate. That is normal enough, actually. I wouldn't worry too much about that in some ways. Often what what happens in meditation is that emotions that are there under the surface tend to bubble up. But I think meditation can have quite a therapeutic effect then, because how the mind works and how our heart works is that stuff needs to be felt in order to be released, if you see what I mean. So if you have had painful experience in the last while, or memories, or whatever it is, or even if it's just background memories, they tend to pop up a good bit in meditation. You know, I think the teaching is just to be with them and feel them. And if they're painful, just breathe with them and try and feel them as much as you can. Breathe into them, lean into them with the breath. If it's too much, you can just push them away. But you know, if you can sit with them, because the more you feel them, the more they get released. It's like memories have an emotional charge with them, and when you can feel them, you kind of discharge that emotional charge. So again, as you meditate more and more, you will feel different parts of your past coming up maybe at times, and just things start to integrate, or things start to dissolve away once you feel them. So awareness is very powerful in that regard. Now, it's not always easy. You know, meditation can bring up painful stuff, but the thing is that that painful stuff is down there anyway. So it's good for meditation to help this come up. If you find it's just too much, then maybe disengage with it and maybe talk about it outside of meditation or something like that, you know. So a few questions. Let's see. Yeah, so people started drifting in stage 3. Yeah, that's normal, but you just have to keep reminding yourself. Lots of background noise. Yeah, that's very hard to work with. I mean, I have friends who meditate in India, and they're like in a little shrine room in the middle of a busy traffic junction. You can get better at it. The main thing to do is to allow it to be there rather than push it away. So you're just trying to let it be there without getting too caught up in it. If you keep trying to wishing it away or pushing it away, you'll have a much more difficult time with meditation. People are restless, that's fine. Any specific reasons why memories pop into mind? No, things just come up. Things just come up. I mean, there might be reasons, but it's very, very hard to say. And it's almost fruitless to try and work out why they come up. It really, like, there's just so many different conditions. Someone heard a cuckoo, that's great. So Dimitri asked an interesting question. Should I relax and try and find the most comfortable posture, or should I constantly keep my chest straight? And even if it's not very comfortable. The answer to this, I'm afraid, is kind of both in a way. So what you want to do is you look for uprightness, and then you look to relax within that uprightness. If it's uncomfortable, you probably need to relax a bit more. But initially, our postures are probably quite poor if we're used to sitting at a computer all day, or they can be. So you really do want to keep the uprightness. If it's actually painful, then you need to adjust something. If it's just a bit unusual, then stay with it until it becomes a bit more normal. Usually we slouch. It's a lot more difficult to do when you're slouching over. You can't quite see the angle there, but like this. So it's a dynamic interplay between the two. Okay, lots of questions coming in. That's good. You notice your body swaying towards the end of the meditation. That's okay. I mean, if that's what your body wants to do, as long as you're not kind of using it as a way to get away from the breath, you know. Sometimes people do sway a little bit in meditation. Okay, coming into step 4, I felt a strong desire to get up and stretch physically. Okay, yeah, hold off. It's only another few minutes. And it might be that you're starting to relax and get more in touch with the body, and then the body says, oh, I really need a stretch. But you can just wait a few more minutes. We've never lost anyone due to not being able to stretch in meditation. Amazing that when you said to let go of the mind anywhere, then your mind wanted to stay. That's very common. That's very common. Often it's because we're probably making a bit too much effort in the meditation. That when we relax, then it's actually easier to meditate. So if you find that your mind was much more absorbed at the end of your meditation into just sitting, try and bring an attitude of doing it a little bit more easily and random. Someone popped up a question with random. A bit more relaxedly in the meditation. And also at the end of the meditation, you've built up a momentum of practice as well. So it's easier to stay with things. I notice itches and twitches. Is there a way to accept or ignore these? I think you can ignore them or you can accept them. I think the best thing is probably just to feel them. And okay, there's a twitch, and it's fine. Your body will twitch. You know, your body's well able to do what it needs to do. You know, so just you know, you can have all kinds of strange experiences when you start to meditate. Sometimes your body can feel really big, really small. Your hands can feel really heavy. You can feel really light. These are technically called somapathies. So they're just a sign that you're starting to go a bit deeper, and your body in a way is readjusting to the releases of energy that you've been having. So don't worry about them. They're actually a good sign, these kinds of things. Okay, there's one or two people having to leave, so that's fine. I'll send you the video later on. Okay, so then in terms of just a couple of announcements. So before we go into the second half of the morning. So, well, it's more than second half, but just to say that you can check out our website, dublinbuddhistcentre.org. Let me just bring up the thing here. So you can go to dublinbuddhistcentre.org and you can see all of our events. We have a full program of events online. So dublinbuddhistcentre.org/online. Some of you have already talked about the Thought for the Day videos that we've been doing. So there's a very good one last week by Mitra Bandhu on poetry. And they come out every weekday, so you can check those out. And there's other events as well. Someone mentioned earlier in the feed about how the lunchtime meditation drop-in sessions were really useful as well. They're just like bells at the start and bells at the end. So you can find all of those on our website, dublinbuddhistcentre.org/online. And then the other thing is that, as I said last week, the course has been offered completely free. But if you want to help our Buddhist Centre, if you want to help us put on more events like this by donating, that would be very, very welcome. So we're almost entirely dependent upon donations at the moment. And your donations will go a long way towards keeping us going and helping us put on more courses. We're going to put on another one of these courses in a couple of weeks' time, and there's various other events happening. So dublinbuddhistcentre.org/donate, and I'll email you the link, and Kevin's just put it in the chat box as well. You can give as much or as little as you want. You don't have to give anything if you have no money. Don't feel like you have to. We really don't want money to get in the way of people learning to meditate, learning more about what we do. But if you can donate as much or as little as possible, that would be great. We tend to find the as much more helpful than the as little, but either is fine, really. And many of you have already donated from last week, so thank you for that if you have donated. I'll remind us of that again. Okay, so the second part of the evening, the morning rather, sorry, I want to talk about is the foundations of mindfulness. So we've done a mindfulness practice now for a few weeks, or for a week rather, a few days. And it is, one of the things I'd like you to try this week as well is to try and be more mindful of the cushion, try and be more aware of the cushion, as well as on the cushion, so to speak. So you have to meditate every day, but also now off the cushion, I want you to try and be more mindful. What I mean by more mindful is just to be aware of what's going on around you and not be lost in a story or in a panic or in a stress or whatever it is that we get lost in. And in a way, it's enough to say, just be mindful, yeah? But actually, that's quite difficult for most of us. So the Buddha gave a schema, a kind of a way of looking at how to be mindful on the cushion and off the cushion. And I wanted to talk about that. We've slightly adopted it for the purposes of this course. So this is called the 4 foundations of mindfulness, or the 4 applications of mindfulness. And I'll share it now on the screen. So it's a way of being more systematic about how we're mindful, yeah? So we start off by becoming mindful of our body, and then the feeling tones, which I'll explain in a moment, and then our emotions, and then our thoughts, okay? So, and these are the 4, and then I want to talk a little bit about using these, setting up the meditation practice, yeah. So in terms of the body is the first one. As you've probably become aware of, meditation happens in the body. And the body is the basis of all our meditation practice. It's the basis of all our experience, actually, really. You can't really have an experience without the body. No matter how in your head you are, there's always some degree of the body. I talked last week about Ratnabandhu saying, you know, most people are having out-of-body experiences most of the time. Or you have the character from one of Joyce's books where he says he lived a short distance from his body. And some of us are like that. We don't always tend to inhabit the body. And the body is the gateway to meditation practice, actually. In a way, it's the gateway to any kind of awareness. When we're aware of the body, what it simply means is, right now, for example, is where are your arms? Where are your legs? How are they laid out? How does your torso feel? How does your mouth feel? How does your nose feel? Generally, we're only in kind of this part of the body, you know, a lot of the time. So it's really about, often for most of us, getting down further into the body. And when you're in the body, life tends to be a bit better. I mean, it can be initially a bit more unpleasant because the body is tense or tighter or whatever. But once you get into it, the body tends to relax more, and you tend to feel a lot better about it. You know, you can really do the body scan. The body scan is a really good way of getting back into the body and noticing things in the body. And you know, you can notice the breath in the body and so on. And I think meditation practice for most of us will be a continual deepening of our bodily awareness for many, hopefully many years to come, actually. Even after 20 years of meditation, I'm still deepening my awareness of the body. And it's a lot better than I was, you know, when I started meditation, obviously. And it's very fruitful being in your body. When you're in your body, when you're really physically supported by your body, you don't tend to get as lost in stories, in stress, in worrying about things. It tends to be much more grounded. You tend to be a lot more grounded in your body. And it's a lot harder to get lost in stories when you come back to your body and actually just feel it. So you can feel, oh God, there's a little bit of a pain in my heart because I'm worried about something, or my throat is tight, or my shoulders feel a bit tight. And then when you feel that, you can actually relax that. And that has a corresponding effect then on the emotionality behind it. So the body is really vital. And, you know, it is worth coming back to the body, even if the body is a bit unpleasant or a bit painful, initially at least, or even ongoingly. It's always better to come back to the body and really feel the body. And it's very hard to meditate just in your head. So yeah, the body is the gateway to meditation. So the second of the the foundations of mindfulness. I'll share the screen again. This is something more Buddhist, so you might not have come across this before, but we call them feeling tones, or Vedana is the Buddhist word. So what this means, what feeling tones mean, is that as you become aware of sensations, like sensations in the body, you'll tend to find them pleasant or painful. Yeah, you'll tend to find them pleasant, painful, or somewhere in between. Yeah. So you know, when I'm sitting here, I might notice that there's a little bit of pressure on my ankle at the moment. So from sitting in this way, I'll adjust my posture now in a moment. And that's slightly uncomfortable, you know. And then my shoulders are starting to relax from the meditation, so they kind of feel a bit pleasant at the moment, you know. And then my belly feels relaxed. That's kind of nice, actually. So is what you're feeling nice or not nice? Is it pleasant or unpleasant? That's what feeling tone really means. And it's very important, actually, because we construct an awful lot of our experience. We construct an awful lot of our world out of whether we find things pleasant or painful. And so, you know, our body feels a bit, you know, a bit unpleasant. And suddenly the world's a horrible place, you know. Or then we go for a run and we feel really well in our body, and suddenly the world's a really lovely place, you know. So we construct an awful lot of our experience out of whether we find things pleasant or painful. And it's not just the bodily sensations that are pleasant and painful. Anything we experience, according to the Buddha, is pleasant or painful or neutral. So when we have an emotion, it can be pleasant or painful. So someone was talking earlier about painful emotions. When we have a thought or a memory, it's pleasant or painful. So you might remember, I was remembering in my meditation this morning, a really embarrassing thing I did about, I don't know, about 15, no, it must be about 25 years ago, actually. I was like, oh, that's really painful to think about that again, you know? So, and whether we find things pleasant or painful like that really shapes how we experience the world. And usually what we do at pleasant things is that we try and pull them towards us and hold on to them really tightly. And usually what we do with painful things is push them away. And when you're in meditation, you know, if you're finding something unpleasant, like someone was talking earlier about the sounds that you could hear, if you find that unpleasant, which I'm sure they did because they're trying to meditate, if you keep trying to just push them away, they'll just keep coming back at you, and you'll have a stronger emotional response to them. And let's say you start going really well in meditation, you find it really enjoyable. If you try to grab onto that and make it even more enjoyable, you'll ruin your meditation, you know? So the secret teaching, or hopefully not too secret now, is that if something is pleasant, you just enjoy it. And if something is unpleasant, you just try and let it be and not get too worked up about it. And I mean, if you can change things, like I changed my posture there because my ankle was uncomfortable. But sometimes emotions come up and there's nothing you can really do about them. Or sometimes you might just feel a bit queasy and there's nothing really you can do about it, you know? Or you might have a painful memory. So the teaching is just to try and let it be, let it arise, let it pass away, and feel it, but not get lost in the story about it. So what we're trying to do with these feeling tones a lot of the time is not get lost in the story we construct about them, but just stay with what it actually feels like. Yeah. And again, that will cut off a lot of the storytelling, the stress that we do, the worry that we do as well. And actually, if you sit with things that are unpleasant, you find them that they're usually not that unpleasant, actually, or B, they pass very quickly, like a memory or an emotion, and they tend to, mindfulness, awareness tends to enhance your experience. So it upgrades painful sensations to pleasant sensations, and it allows you to really enjoy pleasant sensations, and it tends to deepen the pleasure of pleasant feeling tones, you know? So anyway, you can try that out yourself in the meditation. The third one then is mindfulness of emotions. So I won't spend too long on this, but emotions, we have an emotional weather, you could say. So one of the things we can do in our meditations from time to time or throughout our day is just tune in, what's our emotional weather like right now? You know, if our mind was like the sky, the weather, you know, outside in the sky, what would the weather be? If our mind was like the sea, what kind of sea would it be? You know, would it be a really choppy, stirred up sea top, or would it be really calm and crystal clear and lovely light flowing through it, you know? So what's our emotional weather like? And we do have to include this in our experience as well, particularly when we set up in meditation, as we say. Yeah, I'll come back to your question in a minute, Fiona, about focusing on the breath, because I was waiting for that in a way. So really we're going to be focusing on these four at the start of the meditation. So yeah, our emotional weather, including that in our experience. And then thoughts then are the last one. So what we do with our thoughts is simply be aware of them again. And often our thoughts are just kind of, I was using the image of the sea there, the waves on the sea. Our emotions are like the waves in our experience, and the thoughts are more like the spray coming off the top of the waves. They're usually very strongly linked with our emotions underneath them. And the key thing to do with both emotions and thoughts in meditation, if they come up strongly, or when we're setting up our meditation, or throughout your day if you're trying to be mindful, is not to get too lost in them. Yeah, so we can feel our emotions, we can feel our thoughts, but we don't have to get caught up in the story about them. And that's a really important aspect of mindfulness, to be able to feel something, not cut off from it, to be able to feel it, but then also to allow it to be able to unfold in your experience and then pass again, without getting too caught up in the stories. If you get caught up in the stories, you just you get lost in the world of emotion and thought, and you'll lose your mindfulness and you'll lose perspective. So traditional image for this is like the clear blue sky, and emotions and thoughts that arise, they arise within the clear blue sky like clouds, and they shape and they change for a while, and then they pass away again. And you can watch them, you can experience them, you can feel them, feel the feeling tone of them, and but not get lost in them. And that's a really important skill throughout your day. So even if you don't meditate this week, try and tune in every now and again to the four foundations of mindfulness, and you know, how is my body right now? Can I be in touch with it? What's the feeling tone of it? Is it pleasant, painful? What's my emotional weather like? What thoughts are arising and passing away? And can I just experience my emotions and thoughts without getting lost in them, you know? So that's a really good thing to do throughout your day for helping you feel better as well. And sometimes your emotions and your thoughts are painful, actually, like your body. But if you can really just open up to them, awareness will enhance the quality of them and help that pain pass through us more quickly. So I hope that's clear. If not, I'll lead us in a meditation practice where we get in touch with them now in a few moments. Where this is particularly relevant, and this is a question from Fiona, are you supposed to concentrate on your breathing? If you're concentrating on your breathing, how do you stay with the feeling tone or emotion? Which takes priority? So what I'm going to say is that at the start of your meditation, when you're setting up, tune into your body, tune into the feeling tone, tune into your emotions, tune into your thoughts, and then allow an awareness of the breath to emerge. Or you can allow an awareness of the breath to emerge a bit earlier. Say if your emotions are really difficult, you can start to breathe with them. And what you're trying to do is bring in as much of yourself into the meditation as possible. So then the meditation begins and you're in stage one and you're breathing in and out in the count. You've much more of yourself there to meditate with. And you can allow your awareness then to move more onto the breath. And so what you're doing is you're setting up quite a broad awareness at the start. And as the practice goes, you're going more and more focused on the breath throughout. But it's also useful in the meditation because sometimes, you're meditating away and you do have strong emotions come up or you do have strong memories come up. And the thing is, just try and feel the feeling tone of them. Try and let them pass. Again, this is where meditation is a bit of an art. Maybe you have to stay with them for a little while, or maybe it's enough just to bring it back to the breath again. Like if they're really strong, you can't just pretend they're not there. You know what I mean? You can't just wallpaper over them. So that's where this teaching of the foundations of mindfulness is useful. And it can be good to come back to the body. Where do you feel the emotion in the body? And so on. Someone says, I have no thoughts. I don't think I have a brain. No, you have a brain, but no thoughts in meditation is probably a good thing as well. So thank you for that. So hopefully that's clear. So we're going to set up and then bring more of ourselves into the meditation practice, do the mindfulness breathing for a while. And then at the end, we spend a bit of time again, like we did earlier, just sitting, just giving yourself a bit of time to broaden out once more again. And it's important not to jump up at the end of stage 4 because you'll really jar yourself that way. I remember being on retreat and giving myself really bad headaches by just coming out of meditation too quickly. So do give yourself a couple of minutes at the end of your session just to just sit, stay in posture, just sit, and then start to broaden out once more again. And I'd really encourage you again, I've said this already, I'd really encourage you to try these foundations of mind. Write them out maybe on a piece of paper, on a post-it, and stick them to your monitor or something during your day, your computer monitor or whatever, your desk. And every now and again, just stop and tune into each of them in turn, cumulatively. And I guarantee you, your meditation will go better, but you'll also feel a lot better if you do that regularly throughout your day. I know I'm giving you a lot of homework now, but you'll really benefit from it if you do it, yeah. Yeah, and then the last thing to say is when you're in the meditation, just be really clear about your purpose. Just be really clear. I'm here to stay with the breath. And if I wander off, I'm going to come back to the breath, or I'm going to be creative with whatever arises. Just remember to remind yourself of what you're doing. You can even do it at the start of each stage of the practice. You can remind yourself, I'm doing the mindfulness of breathing right now. And in this stage, I'm going to stay with the breath, with the count before the in breath, or whatever it is, So that can be good too. Continuity of purpose, we call it. Okay, so there's a lot of information there, I know. So what we'll do now is we'll do a short sit just to highlight how you might set up. We'll do a few minutes of the third stage of the mindfulness of breathing where we're just breathing. And then we'll do a couple of minutes to finish up and come out again, yeah? And I'll spend a bit longer on the setup than I normally would in meditation, although in a way you've already been doing this because the recordings, the MP3s that you've been using in your course has this in them at the start of the meditation practice. So why don't you just get yourself set up again? I'm just going to change my posture again slightly. So sit in a posture that's comfortable. We'll be sitting for about between 10 and 15 minutes. Okay, so when you're ready, when you're comfortable, again, just exploring that dynamic between being really upright and being really comfortable. And again, that's something that will just evolve and change over time. And you have to find the best way. I mean, don't be in pain, Don't be too uncomfortable. Try and relax. And at the same time, try and be upright. Okay, so we're going to take a few minutes to set up the meditation practice. So first of all, just tuning in to the body, tuning into the first foundation, the first application of mindfulness. Or to put it more usefully, Let's apply our mindfulness now to the body. Let's become aware of the body. So it might be that you feel your feet in contact with the floor or the cushions, whatever parts of your legs are in contact with the chair, with the cushions, with the ground. Feeling your sitting bones in contact with whatever you're sitting on. Feeling your stomach and abdomen. Feeling your back. Feeling your shoulders. Your arms and hands. Maybe taking a deeper breath or two down into your belly. And maybe a breath or two to open across the front of the chest as well. And keeping that openness as you breathe out. And now looking at the feeling tone. So how does it simply feel to sit here? Is it comfortable? Is it uncomfortable? Or is it neutral? When we start out, a lot of our experience will actually feel neutral. But if you really look at it, there's more going on there. That'll emerge over time. So are we at ease? Are we comfortable? Is our experience here pleasant? Is it painful? You can be generally asking this, or you can be specifically looking at what you can feel. You know, if you feel your feet in contact with the floor, is that pleasant or painful? Or somewhere in between? So everything that we feel has a feeling tone. Everything that we feel is pleasant or painful or somewhere in between. And the teaching really is just to be open to it as it is, without pushing it away or pulling it towards us. And noticing the effect that this has. If you're not quite sure what you're doing, just seeing how at ease you are sitting here. That's a good way in, I think. How comfortable, how uncomfortable are you right now? And then becoming aware of the third foundation, applying mindfulness to our emotions this time. So it can take a while to tune into this. So just being patient and seeing, maybe an image might help. So what's your emotional weather like? If your heart, if your emotions were like the sea, what kind of sea would it be? If it was like the weather in the sky, what kind of sky would it be? And giving it a space to emerge into your experience. You don't have to grab it. You might be feeling quite calm and positive, or you might be quite stirred up. Whatever you find, just being open to that without judgment. It can help to notice the feeling tone of your emotions. Are they pleasant? Are they painful? Are they somewhat neutral? If they're painful, you can breathe with them to ease your way into them. But trying to feel them without getting lost in them. Seeing them arise and pass away. Arising and passing away. They are part of us, but they don't define us fully. They're like clouds in a clear blue sky. And then noticing any thoughts we have, any recurrent thoughts, any random thoughts. very usually connected to our emotions. So applying mindfulness in this way as well now, the fourth application of mindfulness. And maybe we're quite calm and there's no thoughts and we can just enjoy that. That usually feels pretty pleasant. Or maybe we've got cyclic thinking going on and that's a bit unpleasant. Just feeling whatever is there without trying not to get lost in any stories. And now allowing the breath to emerge within all this, with all this. We're not cutting off from this, but we're allowing the breath to emerge within it, breathing with it all. Remembering our intention to stay engaged with the breath and to come back to the practice if we wander off. And for the next 2 or 3 minutes, we'll do the third stage of the mindfulness of breathing, where we're just aware of the breath. Each breath in, each breath out. We don't have to remain aware of the foundations if we want. We can allow our awareness to move more and more onto the breath, the body breathing. But we can notice the feeling tone of the breath. Is it enjoyable? Is it unpleasant? Coming back to the breath if you've wandered off. If you wish, you could tune in again briefly to the foundations of mindfulness, but it might be enough just to come back to the breath and the body. Okay, and now we'll let go of the practice, let go of the breath completely, as best we can, and just letting the mind do whatever it wants to do. Really just trying to dwell in awareness, but without doing anything particular. And we'll just sit for a few moments. Just sitting. And then broadening out again to take in the room around us, the sounds we can hear, the people around us in the building, the landscape beyond the building we're in. Starting to gently and appropriately reintroduce movement, wiggling fingers and toes. And what I'm going to ask you to do is keep your eyes closed for now. But if you wish, coming out to a more regular seated position, keeping your eyes closed. If you need to move, for example, just doing that appropriately. And what I find really good to do is when you come out of your posture, if you need to, keeping your eyes closed, just seeing how you're feeling right now before you open your eyes and move around again. Just see, how are you feeling now? Are you different to before you did the meditation practice? Does your body feel different? Are you more at ease? Do your emotions and thoughts feel different? How do they feel right now? And it can be really good to do this at the end of your meditation practice. It highlights the change that meditation can bring, which you can easily miss if you just jump up straight away. And even after doing a bit of just sitting, if you jump up straight away, even after that, it can be good just to sit for another moment or two and just notice how you're feeling. And then when you're ready, you can open your eyes again. Okay, so hopefully you saw what I meant by the setting up in that way, connecting with the foundations of mindfulness. I don't know about you, but I felt like I was bringing much more of myself into the meditation, and I found it a lot easier as a result, actually, to stay engaged with the practice now. So again, it's built into your guided meditations. Do leave comments in the chat if you want, or if you have any questions about that. Yeah, that's good. So yeah, thanks for that. Someone was saying the emotions were very strong on the first sit and now they're gone. My dog, who was resting quietly, jumped on me but waited nearly till the end. Okay, that's nice. I know people whose dogs curl up in their lap when they're meditating, which is quite nice, actually. Yeah, and so do take the time this week to set up. Just to say, we felt more grounded but heavy. That's fine. That's kind of what I mean about sometimes you feel very heavy and sometimes you feel very light, and not to worry too much about that. And it felt a lot easier than earlier. I think it is a lot easier if you do bring yourself more into the practice in this way. That's why it's really important to set up very well. And the last thing to say as well is also, I'll take a few questions now, but the last thing I wanted to say is that there's no such thing as a bad meditation. Even if your meditation felt very poor, at the end you can still notice that it's upgraded your experience from earlier. So I really do mean that. Don't get into whether it was a good meditation, whether it was a bad meditation. So we've seen it is very difficult to compare and contrast, it must be said, at times. But it's more like, well, do you feel well now? You know what I mean? After having done that, do you feel you've benefited from it? So yeah, I'm seeing very positive comments come in the chat now. Thank you for that. Okay, so just keep sending in the questions. Before I'll answer a few more in a moment, just while you're typing, the home practice this week is to keep practicing the mindfulness of breathing. If you really want to keep doing the body scan, you can do it on occasion, but the main practice this week is the mindfulness of breathing, with a period of setting up and carefully setting up and carefully finishing, which the MP3s will do as well. They'll lead you through that as well. And great, thank you for all the comments. And the other thing to do is, then I'd really encourage you to just throughout your day, just try and every now and again stop and tune into your body a bit more. You know, tune into the foundations of mindfulness, and tune into how you're feeling, and just do that throughout your day as well. It only takes 5 minutes to do, or even 3 minutes to do, and you will feel better for it, I have to say. One person's asking about can you recommend a video to get into meditation posture? We have a video, so I'll send you a video. Kevin, could you take a note that we'll send out Surita's video to people about how to sit comfortably. Okay. And that's it. And don't forget that if you want to donate, you can support us by donating to the centre. I'll email you that link, and I'll make the YouTube available this afternoon. So I'll make that available. It'll probably be after lunch by the time the video uploads and everything. Let's see, any more question? Inwardly spinning sensations in the body. Yeah, that can happen sometimes. It might be that you're being a bit tight with the breath and you might need to relax your breath. It might be that you want to bring your breath a bit more down into your belly. And it might just be something that, you know, some kind of energy is being released and it never happens again the next time. If it's regularly, just try and sit very, very comfortably. Great, my mind wanders. Yeah, that's okay. Oh yeah, it's taken a while to get used to this meditation practice. Can yoga replace meditation? I think yoga works on the body primarily and meditation works on the mind primarily, although the body and mind are just a spectrum really. So I think it's good to do both, to be frank. If you're doing yoga meditations, I'd recommend maybe for discourse just doing our meditations, because it's very hard to do two different types of meditations, two different schools of meditations at the same time. So maybe you can go back to your yoga meditation at the end of the course if you want to just focus on these right now. Yeah, people are saying lovely to meditate with you all, so that's very good. Feel free to leave now whenever you want. I mean, that's all I have to say, but I'm going to answer more questions. Feel like your senses are heightened. Yeah, I remember last week I was talking about how I was walking through Trinity and seeing the trees as if for the first time. So maybe one thing you might like to do in Dublin is certainly, I don't know what it's like in Malahide or France or Sweden, all the different places we have, but it's certainly nice and sunny out here. Go out into your garden now for a while and have a cup of tea or something and just really enjoy that if you can, you know. Thanks again, that's great. Okay, so good. Lots of appreciation. Feel free to ask questions as well if you wish. And next week, what we're going to look at is the loving kindness practice, the second meditation practice that we'll do. So we'll be doing a different meditation practice next week, and it's a bit different. It's a bit more involved, and some people love it. Some people prefer to this practice. Some people prefer the mindfulness of breathing practice. So we'll look at that next week. Hopefully, we're almost tech glitch free this week. Hopefully, we'll be completely tech glitch free next week. Okay, good. I don't see any more questions. So what I'll do is I might unmute everyone, or at least I'll give you the option to unmute rather. And if you want to unmute yourself, you can, and you can say hello to everyone or thank you. You can ask questions as well. You might want to switch to gallery view to see everyone, and feel free to leave whenever you want. But you can now unmute yourself. I'm just going to